Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Crawley Town Supporters Alliance Simply Reds podcast. My name is Reuben, and I'm joined by Brad. You all right, Brad?
Yes, I'm good. Thanks, Reuben. Thanks for having me back.
That's all right. Well, we've had many compliments about you, so we thought we'd bring you back for another episode. And we're joined by Louie. You all right, Louie?
Evening, Reuben. Evening, Bradley. Yeah, all good, thank you.
I mean, it's been quite a few weeks since we last did the podcast. And it seems like Scott Lindsey is trying to get the band back together from our promotion winning season. Starting off with the drummer Clyde Lolos. I mean, I don't know whether drumming's a natural ability for him, but hopefully his.
I would hazard a guess it was superimposed.
Oh, do you?
The drumming.
I mean, there were rumours spreading throughout the day, weren't there, that he might be coming back and that he wasn't really being played much at Peterborough. Brad, what were your thoughts when you started to see those rumours circulating?
I think, to be fair, I think he was genuinely a target in the summer. I heard his name mentioned in the summer when he went to Peterborough. Excited. I mean, look, Lolos in the promotion season, Lolos was a bit of a divisive character. I would say the first half of that season he was average. He had a couple of injuries and then he really sort of came back with a bang sort of after Christmas. But I think he brings something that we lack, and I think we spoke about this on the last podcast. Nobody takes a shot from outside the box. Nobody sort of runs onto a ball and just thinks hit it, right? And I think Lolos does do that really well. For me, I always thought he was at his best in that kind of 10 role. I didn't rate him as highly when we had to put him up front in some games. But look, he's an exciting character, right? He's an exciting player at League Two level, and whether or not he was part of the promotion squad, I think what he did in his previous spell at the club was bring excitement.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when he was last at Crawley, he scored 15 goals in 56 appearances. And yeah, that was just in one season. So if he was able to even replicate half of that at the moment, bear in mind it's half a season to go, I think there'll be some much needed goals that we've definitely been lacking.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, between Lolos and Orsi, we lost 40 goals from that season. I think the next top scorer probably would have been Andrew Campbell with maybe 10 or 11. So we lost a hell of a lot of goals, which obviously we haven't replaced since. And it's what we've been lacking this season, just that bit of quality in the final third. So I think in terms of not just the feel-good factor of getting the band back together, so to speak, and particularly someone like Orsi, who was so popular, I think if they were players who didn't have that connection with the fans, but you looked at what they'd done at this level previously, you'd think, yeah, okay, that's kind of what we need. We know Orsi's the exact sort of player we've been missing this season, someone who can lead the line, he'll run the channels, he'll occupy defenders, but also, I mean, I think I said it before, how many of his goals in that season were just him in the right place at the right time, just that instinctive just being in the right position, whether it was a rebound or getting on the end of a cross or just on the end of a pass. It's something that we've just not had this season. Shamanga's done it in bits and pieces, and I think has shown he can make an impact as a sub, but we've not had that consistent threat between sort of just that 6-yard box striker, which seems to be a little bit outdated. But the way we play, I think you need someone like that, because you need someone who's just getting on the end of things, and he's never been replaced. He wasn't replaced last season. Will Swan was maybe meant to be that, but wasn't up to it at League One level. It didn't seem like at the time. He's obviously done okay for Bradford, but and how many times a season, and I'll probably mention it again later on when we talk about the Notts County game, but how many times a season have we just not taken our chances? We either poor finishing or someone not being where the ball's dropped. So
one of the things with Lolos as well, I think, is slightly underrated and goes a little bit under the radar, is his height. And playing just behind Orsi, if he can win a header and flick it on, and you know Orsi will be on his toes and running in behind. I do think, he's not a target man, but when we do want to go direct, I think he can be something that we've I think we touched on it last time in the podcast. The midfield was very small, very lightweight. I think he does bring a physicality to it, maybe in the wrong way. We'll discuss later, but I do think he brings a sort of physicality, and it is almost a hark back to the kind of little man, big man up front sort of throwback, which I like.
Yeah, I think what you said about Lolos and his physicality, it's quite underrated. He's tall, he's strong, he's quick, and one thing, he's quite a deceptive player in that he's quick and he can carry the ball. He's got great quick feet and technical ability, but he's also got the ability to mix it. If the ball comes into him and he's got his back to a defender, he can bring it down. He can bring others into play, and it was something that we've missed this season as well. We've not really had that. I mean, if you look at the players we've had, Shamanga's not that kind of player. He's very much a poacher type. Loft isn't Loft. I don't know what. Yeah, McCurdy's very much sort of running in behind and sort of a final, trying to get in on the end of things in the final third and get crosses in and get shots off. So we've lacked someone who can actually link, sort of act as that ball carrier, that link between the midfield and the attack, and that is what Lolos was so good at that season. Beyond the goals, beyond his ability to get on the end of things in the box or shoot from outside the box, it's just his ability to just breeze past players and get us up the pitch and create something out of nothing is something that we've just not had this season. And obviously we're going to be missing him for a few games now, which is really frustrating and pretty ridiculous. But I think once those two are settled back in, and hopefully it's not a case of too little too late by the time that does happen, but between them, I think they add so much quality that we've been lacking up top, and they are exactly the sort of players we needed, not just on a tactical and technical level, but also in terms of a feel-good factor as well. It's
Well, we spoke about it. We spoke about it last time, didn't we? And I think I said, and I've maintained this throughout the season with everyone I've spoken to, is at this level you need 15 goals, right? And between Lolos and Orsi, on paper you would think or hope that they can get those 15 goals to hopefully sort of drag us away from the bottom.
Something's gone wrong if they don't, because I've maintained all season the performances and the setup has largely been there. You look at the amount of games where we've been in the game, we just haven't taken our chances, or we've played well and not taken our chances, and it's almost every week. Yep. We've now not got that excuse,
not at all,
because of those two, and it didn't quite work out on Saturdays. We'll come on to, but that lack of that sort of what we've been saying this season about the lack of quality up top, that excuse doesn't really fly anymore, because we know how good these two are, both playing together and just at this level in general. And then, so in theory,
we are going to go through the signings as they are laid out in the new Red Devils diary,
which we'd highly recommend you buy for £2.
Grounds. Genuinely, I've really missed having a programme. I love having a read. I love the stuff in it. So, from me personally, thank you to the guys that have put this together. Thank you to the CTSA for backing it. It's nice to have it back, for sure.
And also, if
it's
you're
interesting to be a fanzine, because you get a slightly less political take on it, right? So it's more opinionated, which I kind of like too.
And also worth bearing in mind that if you aren't able to get it on the ground, then a few days after each game, the programme gets uploaded onto the CTSA website as well. People to have a read.
Good. So the next one is Louie Copley.
An interesting one.
Yeah.
Quite a highly rated.
Divide an opinion over the weekend.
And I think
some of the support groups.
I think it depended on where you were watching the game from and what view you had. But I think he's a fairly highly rated youngster at Arsenal. He's captained the under-21s on a few occasions this season. He's been in a Champions League squad this season. So he's not someone who... I would be surprised if he makes it at Arsenal, simply because of the level that you need to be at to make it at the top of the Premier League, and the fact that players who are on loan at Crawley Town probably don't tend to be quite have that level, have that ceiling to their game, so to speak. But nonetheless, he's clearly someone who's relatively well thought of for his age. And I mean,
I think it's very
I think the
difficult.
game
Isn't it?
passed him by at times, but I think he showed some nice touches technically. And I mean,
You could see the quality.
Yeah.
You could see the fact that he. I mean, look, hands up, right? I sit in the east stand in the second row. I thought he had a very good game. I think he was named man of the match by the
he
the
was.
sponsors. I thought so. The two things that stuck in my mind were I thought physically and the way he moves, he reminds me quite a lot of Flint. They move quite similarly. They carry the ball quite similarly, and they're quite a similar stature.
They look similar, just physically as well.
Yeah.
Same hair and yeah.
And I take what you mean, Louis. I think look, he's 19. He could be a late developer and get into that Arsenal team. He's come out of the same under-21 group that's produced like Max Dowman and Ethan Nwaneri, Miles Lewis-Skelly, right? So I could see him playing for Arsenal. I think he's definitely got the quality. I think there was some touches in there where you could see that kind of Premier League upbringing, I suppose, and I guess what gets drilled into these guys day in, day out. The thing he lacked was maybe the, step up from under 21s into League Two, right?
Yeah.
And we see that in the Papa John's Trophy in the early rounds when the under 21 teams come in. Like, I remember watching us against Villa under 21s, and we completely outplayed them, and they're just not used to that kind of physicality and being brushed off the ball. But I personally, I thought he had a really good game, and brought something different into the midfield.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth bearing in mind.
Yeah, I think
that was his first kind of professional game. Because even first loan, like he's only ever been with. Well, he started off with West Ham youth, I think, probably when he was about 10, but then he moved to Arsenal youth, and so his only experience has been with one of those two teams, and so it's quite a big step up. It's probably one of the biggest crowds he's ever played in front of. I'm not going to say much playing in front of Crawley, but it is. And also to start as well, just a few days after.
To come back into that environment with Lolos and Orsi coming back, and like, I don't know, but I would hazard a guess that was probably our biggest attendance of the season.
it certainly felt like it.
It did feel like
Well, it'll be up there. Yeah,
it felt like the old days, didn't it?
for a brief period at least. Yeah.
For about an hour.
I thought Copley, like you say, you can see there's a level of quality there. He doesn't, he's got that little bit of class when when his first touch and the way he can knock the ball about. You think there's definitely something there, but it's about so much more than that. It's about how sharp is he tactically? Is he match fit? It's sort of his positional sense and how quickly he's going to adjust to the physicality as well. So on a technical level, I've got no concerns about his ability, but it is whether he can adapt to men's football.
You hit the nail on the head. There was a few times, you see it a lot in Premier League football. He received the ball on the turn, and then looked to play a ball forwards. And for me, that is something we desperately lack this season. It's been a lot of sideways and backwards. So just to have someone that was comfortable taking the ball, turning and looking forward.
I think that's why, on that note, that's why Kaheem Dixon looks quite exciting at first, because he was another one who, the ball come in and he'd let it run across and he'd instantly be going forward. And obviously, you can see how raw he was and he didn't quite have that end product a lot of the time. But that similar sort of upbringing where the first touch is always purposeful, it's forward or it's into space. So yeah, I mean, if Copley can adjust quickly, I think he could be a really useful player for us. Yeah, I'm not, I do wonder how much we want to pin our hopes on him when like you say, this is his first sort of step into the professional men's football.
Yeah.
And we'll be. I mean, I know there's rumours going around. We suspect we might potentially be signing, say, Ronan Darcy, for example. And I think for a lot of these signings, it's a case of where actually are they going to all play?
Yeah, particularly the midfielders.
Yeah,
because I think you've got if Darcy, and it seems like it is happening. The ever reliable Is it Pete O'Rourke
Yeah,
on Twitter? He's normally pretty spot on with stuff like this. He's almost like a lower league David Ornstein. If he says it's happening, it's pretty much happening. But yeah,
The League
he's
2 Fabrizio
yeah.
Romano.
yeah, something along those lines.
Although he did get Charlie
he's-
Barker going to Rotherham wrong at the beginning of the season.
Oh well, I mean,
We'll let him off.
I think
everyone makes mistakes. We seem to be signing Ryan Darcy, and it makes you think: how is there an innovative sort of 8 in midfield formation that Scott's going to be trying? Because I tweeted earlier, it's stressing me out slightly
10.
how many midfielders we've got. It's like
Yeah.
you'd imagine that
Few are going to go.
Dixon will probably go back, Bajrami will probably go back purely because they're 2 lone players, and we can't have as many lone players as we've got. I'd imagine Loft will probably go back, and he's another loanee. Holohan and Brown, don't think I'd be surprised to see them feature again this season. But both just too lightweight for this for the men's, for League 2 football, really. So that does free up a little bit of space in the squad, but we'd still be left with the likes of Louis Watson, Max Anderson, Jack Rolls. You'd imagine Rolls possibly could go out on loan. But yeah, I think Louis Watson can probably feel a little bit hard done by, because on the technical level, he's probably one of our better players, and he's not really done much wrong this season. So again, you've got Max Anderson, who's now back playing after a
I think it
fractured
also
leg.
comes back to, I think Scott touched on it in his presser the other day, was a lot of these guys, in his eyes, and I would echo his sentiment, have been given an opportunity across the first half of the season, and they've not grabbed those shirts and made them their own, right? So Rolls is a great example. Obviously, Rolls has been around the club for a long time. He went out on loan last year from League One back into the National League. I like Rolls. I like Rolls as a person, and I like Rolls as a player. I always think he brings something a bit different. But in the best part of 3 seasons, he's not been able to kind of nail on a sort of starting berth. And if you consider where we are at the moment, I know we'll talk about Notts County a bit later on, but I think, if you look at the position Pereira played at the weekend, there's probably still room for a 10 in there somewhere. And I did see today that Cashman's back running, so he's still to come back as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one on Cashman. I know we're talking about new signings, but he is basically still a new signing, because I think we've only seen him make 2 or 3 appearances.
Yeah.
I think I've seen him play once.
Yeah, he started against MK Dons back in August, played quite well out on the left. I think he came on against Crewe, possibly in the game before that. And I'd be surprised if he's played much since. But I had a conversation with a couple of people earlier, last week on Twitter, and I was saying how, to me, it seemed like Cashman was signed to be that Jeremy Kelly replacement. Someone who was ostensibly a midfielder, a number 10, but is actually, Scott basically moved Jeremy Kelly out to be someone who played on the left but drifted in, got us playing out from under pressure, could take a man on or make a pass. And Cashman seems, I'm not saying Cashman's as good as Kelly, we don't know because we haven't seen him play, and we might not really find out this season, but it seems to me he was a very similar style of player, like stylistically, in the way that Scott wanted to use him. I thought it was quite telling that his first appearance for us was out on that side. And then you can see that we signed, a couple of other left backs as well. As well as Kellen Gordon. I mean, we are overflowing with wide players and midfielders, it feels like.
But next is Johnny Russell.
Yeah, one of those aforementioned wide players.
We spoke about him after the Cheltenham game, in the case of his long throws, but I think I was quite impressed with him on Saturday.
I would agree.
He looks more at home, I think.
Definitely.
He looks a little bit more.
I think his crossing still needs some work.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he's... So, as I say, I sit in the East Stand, so for the first half, predominantly I get to see the left wing back, and for the second half I get to see the right wing back. I thought he played really well. I thought he made runs forward that we haven't been making so much this season. He certainly seems comfortable delivering a dead ball. which again I think is something we've lacked a little bit at times this season.
Definitely.
Long throw, great weapon to have, right? And as I said earlier, I think with the height of Lolos, and again the height of Copley as well, you know, like I say, I think he brings more of a physical stature than some of those midfielders. I thought he looked exciting. I thought he was definitely up there for a shout for man of the match on Saturday.
He feels quite old school, doesn't he? In the sense that
yeah,
he's just very much. Do you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me a little bit. He's very much like a straight up and down. He's a straight up and down wing back. He's not going to be cutting inside. He's not going to be trying to drift in. He's very much just up and down the line. And I think in some games we've definitely lacked width this season. We've lacked someone holding the width and creating a bit of an overload. So I'm not, especially if you've got Pereira on the right, for example, who wants to come in and who wants to take his man on, cut in, get a shot or a cross off. You probably need someone on the other side who's willing to stay out wide and stretch the pitch. So I think, I wasn't overwhelmed by him against Cheltenham. I thought he looks a little bit sluggish and a little bit off the pace, but I thought against Notts County he certainly looks more a bit more match fit and a bit more.
I can't remember which one of you said it last week, but obviously at 19 as well. I mean, he came over from Ireland. He's literally stuck straight on a coach to Cheltenham. You know,
that's luxury coming to Cheltenham.
Right? Yeah. Here's a shirt. Go and sort of try and help dig this club out of the position we kind of find ourselves in. So, I mean, look, he interacted with the crowd a bit down that side. He was sort of trying to get them going as well. Definitely demonstrated some sort of leadership qualities and looked, like you said, a bit wiser beyond his years. I think end product, it's a strange one to say. I mean, you know, he looks good over a dead ball, but then he can't necessarily cross it from open play as well. But, you know, young... we'll see. I mean, he looked okay. I felt it was more fluid having him down the left than Adi Amo cutting inside onto his right foot.
Yeah, I think there's a time and a place for Adi Amo, especially if you're chasing a game, and because he's got that ability to beat a man and create something out of nothing. But certainly, and I think if you look at our better performances so far this season, I would wager that I'd have to go back and check, but I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them came with Scott Malone on that side. And again, kind of a similar player, sort of very up and down the pitch. Yeah, just no nonsense, up and down. He'll do his defensive work. He'll get up. He'll hold the width. He'll get across him. So I wonder if Scott's kind of looks at that, because I mean, Bristol Rovers at home, that's probably our biggest win of the season. Almost definitely is. And that was with Scott Malone in the side. And it was around that sort of, we had a 4-game unbeaten run. I think that was when Scott Malone probably managed to put 3 games together for the only time this season.
Yeah, and he was banging goals and assists, wasn't he?
Yeah, got on the score sheet. Was, you know, he was doing a good job going forward and back. And unfortunately for him, his body just hasn't been able to kind of let him stand up to week in, week out football. So I wonder if part of the thinking is, well, actually, if we can't have Danny Cashman sort of playing that Jeremy Kelly style, do we go back to a Nick Cerula up and down the pitch style player? Because if you look at the 2 players who played in that promotion season under Scott, that they were the 2 playing out on the left for the most part. So, I think the more Russell settles in, I'm hoping that he'll, like you say, perhaps his end product needs a little bit of work. Although, you know, on his debut against Cheltenham, the one big chance we created in that first half was him getting down the left and playing a really good crossing. So he can do it. It's just a case of consistency.
Yeah, I think as well, it's a little bit of understanding, isn't it? Orsi, you know, Orsi, like you said earlier on, you know, and we'll get to Orsi at the end. He's very much an old style centre forward, and you need an old style sort of left back whipping a ball across. And we'll get there, right? That those sort of chemistry things take a little bit of time to develop.
You just have to hope it's not too late.
Yeah. Well, also I think with Russell as well, he's also got the potential to actually be a fan's favourite as well. And I think that's what we've probably been missing a little bit this season. There's not really been any players particularly that people have kind of got a real strong connection to. like we did say during our promotion season. I know when you're winning, it helps a lot. But I think even when you are carved down and dump slip it, there's still going to be one or two players fans have a bit of a connection to. But it's felt like we've
Yeah.
been missing that this season.
Well, the next guy on the list, I would say, fits into that mould a little bit. So that is Akin Odimeo, who made his debut at the weekend, and then sort of put his head above the parapet to kind of come out and say that, you know, the fans were well within their rights to expect a victory, and, you know, he seems like he's enjoying being at the club, from the interview that I read. And I thought, again, I was expecting him to be more of a right back than perhaps he was. He sort of played more as a centre half, but I thought he looked really, really tidy, really solid.
Yeah, and I thought as a unit, the back three, it was a little bit unclear at times whether it was a back three or a back four. It seemed quite fluid. My dad was he was down with a case of man flu over the weekend, so he had to he had to miss the game, and he was watching it from home, and he was saying,
Hopefully watching
texted
after
me saying,
the
"Looks
game,
like
not at
a
3
back four."
p.m.
No, absolutely. Of course he was.
Yeah.
There's no legal way to watch at 3 p.m. Of course.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, of course. Yeah, no, absolutely. He was saying, he texted me sort of like, "Oh, we can't tell if we're a back three or a back four," and at that time I sort of knew what he meant. I mean,
Yeah. It was a back four until Johnny Russell moved forward.
Yeah, it seemed like it's quite fluid, which is
Yeah.
possibly something we haven't quite been this season. For all our faults, I think possibly one of the biggest ones is that we're probably quite easy to adapt to, because you know that it's just going to be free at the back when we're trying to play out and when we're trying to build possession. I think if we've got that bit of fluidity, it possibly makes us a bit harder to organise a press against and
Definitely.
you know, harder to disrupt us, which I think it has been the amount of times in the second half of the season where teams have come out and completely, they've worked us out and they've kind of walk all over us in the second half.
I thought
might
he
not be the
came
case
in
anymore.
and played where Charlie Barker would ordinarily play, and I would say, going back to Reuben's point, Charlie's probably one of those players that does have a bit of affinity with the fans from last season. I thought it was a bold move to leave him out for the first time in probably 18 months. But, you know...
Was he in the squad? Was he on the...
Yeah, he was on the bench.
Yeah. Was Radcliffe as well.
But I thought Odimeo looked really good.
I thought
I was
him... As a back three that haven't played together before, Flint, Vassell and Odimeo looked... Sorry, Odimeo. Looked pretty... Yeah, it didn't look like a back three that hadn't played together before. They looked relatively solid.
Looked solid.
And I think possibly the biggest compliment you can give Odimeo is that you didn't really notice him in a weird... Like, I almost forgot... I actually, as we wanted to record this day, I kind of actually forgot he started. But it's only when you... Oh, yeah, actually, he did play quite well. He didn't really put a foot wrong. He was quite solid. And it's possibly quite a promising back three going forward. I wonder if they complement each other quite well as a pairing or as a three.
The two in particular, I thought Odimeo and Vassell. So there were a couple of times where Flint did his kind of walkabout thing and go forward. What I found quite interesting with Odimeo was he just stayed there, right? So I love Charlie Barker. There's quite a lot of times though where he makes a lung busting run backwards and flies in and makes a last-ditch tackle, and we all love it to a certain degree, but it's not the most solid defensive strategy, whereas I thought we just looked a bit more solid with the three of them.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of touched on something there where, as a kid, growing up playing football, you're taught that your fullbacks, if one goes, one stays. Playing in a back four as it was back then, a standard 4-4-2. That's what I always played growing up back in the 2000s. And so if you're in a back three, that becomes even more important because the amount of times this season where Flint's obviously stepped forward into midfield, Barker stepped forward as well, and suddenly it's Conroy left to defend against 2 or 3, and you're scrambling to get back. And as much as Conroy's had some criticism this season, some of it probably a little bit personal and unfair, some of it quite valid.
Yeah, don't condone that.
I think there's probably been times where you kind of think, well, actually, he's not in the best of situations in the middle of a back 3 where 2 of them are playing like fullbacks. So I think what you said about
just to
Odemeo,
play devil's advocate on that one, because someone will flag it, so I will flag it for them. He is the captain, so he should say, Josh has gone, you stay, right?
Yeah, that is completely valid as well. And
I think you're right. Personal criticism, I've got no time for. I think to analyse and criticise someone's performance over 90 minutes is fair game. But yeah, look, definitely there's been a lot of occasions this season where we've been massively overexposed. I mean, I was talking to somebody before the game, and they'll know who they are, and they reminded me of the Will Wright clearance off the line in the MK Dons first leg, right? I always maintain that if that goes in, it's a different game. Charlie Barker is a bit like that, so Will Wright used to do that kind of moving on, but then we didn't have like Flint on the other side. But what Will Wright and Maguire did quite well was one would go, one would stay.
Yeah,
and I
they both wanted to go, but they knew they had the discipline. They had discipline where Maguire would often end up flying down the wing and kind of overlapping Jeremy Kelly, or it was quite it was like a bit like, hold on a minute. But if he did that, then Wright wouldn't bomb forward. He might step in a little bit into midfield, but that back 3 of, and again, it was Conroy in the middle of that back 3.
Yeah.
That back 3 of Conroy, Wright and Maguire were a bit. Yeah, so I think I think sometimes players just don't gel together, and I think we've seen this where Flint, Conroy and Barker have played a lot of games together over the last 18 months.
It's just not worked.
And in the vast majority of them, it hasn't worked.
I mean,
sometimes it's just a stylistic fit.
When we've made these signings, I look at the back 3, I'm like, for example, when Vassell came in, I'm like, who's he actually going to replace here? Because individually, they're not like, I can't really pinpoint and be like, you're the reason we're letting in so many goals. And I mean, I think it's one of the cases of like, now we've had Vassell in and Odemeo, it is a case of now we kind of realise what we've been missing. I mean, I should imagine when we look at outgoings, we'll see some of the defenders go, whether it's potentially Conroy or Barker, considering Conroy didn't even make the bench for this game, and Barker because he just was on the bench. But I'm sure we'll see somebody go.
Let's go out of order of the programme slightly because we've touched on him, but I think Vassell had a really good game on Saturday.
He's exactly what you want in the middle of your defence. He
just wanted to.
He's actually better on the ball than I had been led to believe from other people
He didn't look great against Barnet.
No,
whose kind of opinion I do respect, and they were saying, it was not the top 20 pod. They were saying he's not a typical sort of playing the ball out from the back kind of defender. But I thought he's a bit better on the ball than I expected. But also, he just loves defending. And I said this about Conroy, I think when we last recorded. He's always somebody who feel like he doesn't really enjoy defending. He does it, but it's kind of like it feels like he's like taking the bins out or he's doing the dishwasher. He does it, but he's not enjoying it. Whereas Vassell, you feel like he wants to head the ball away. He wants to be heading the cross away.
They're two very different centre halves. I would say Conroy wants to play out from the back a lot. He wants to be almost like a central defensive midfielder. Whereas Vassell just wanted to win his headers or get the ball and feed it into the midfield and let them do their job. And I thought he looked really solid. I was very critical of him after... was it Barnet where he made his debut? He played on the left side of the 3.
See, I thought he looks all right against Barnet, to be fair. All things considered.
Different people, different opinions, right? I watched it on telly. I thought he was poor. I was concerned. Not lie, I was concerned when I saw the back 3 come out without Conroy or Barker. I really liked Vassell in the middle. I thought he looked really solid. And yeah, I mean, look, I think I said it a bit earlier on, right? Some of the guys that have been there for the past 6 months, they've had half a season and they've not really claimed a shirt.
It's hard to see Vassell being dropped after
he starts. He's got to start against Barrow, right?
Because, I think he'd be in a lot of people's first choice 11, which I believe we'll come on to a bit later on as well.
And you've got to remind me, because I'm conscious, because I forgot what happened on the game on Saturday, but I know previous games, goal kicks, we'd often just pass it to Conroy to then we're in the box.
Yeah.
What has happened? I forgot what happened for goal kicks.
More mixed, I would say.
It felt like we were using the outside centre-backs a little bit more from goal kicks. Off the top
And
of my
Johnny
head.
Russell.
Again, it felt a little bit more... Again, which I think you have that variety. It makes you a little bit harder to prepare against, a little bit harder to play against. So I don't necessarily mind it. Yeah,
I would say there was definitely more of a mixture. It's my biggest frustration in life when we're chasing the game and there's 5 minutes to go and you get Conroy knock it along the 6-yard line to Harvey Davies, who plays it out to Charlie Barker, and we play some tiki-taka football, and it's like, come on. It did feel like there was more of a mix. What I would say as well is what I found quite interesting was even when we did go direct, it didn't feel as direct as when Loft's in the team. It felt like Harvey Davies was taking something off his long kicks just to just clear the halfway line and get it in that pocket.
It felt a bit more considered and a bit more purposeful,
like
rather than just, right, let's just try and get it in the general area of Ryan Loft and hope he wins it. I think it felt a little bit... And that's more. It's more sustainable as well. If you're playing it out to Russell, or you're trying to drop it into Lawless, you've got a much better chance of success in the ball sticking and being able to get out of the pitch and reducing the pressure that you're under, compared to if you're just hoping that your centre forward wins a header against two centre backs that he's up against. I think how many signings have we got to go through still? Could be.
We've got about 4 to go. Four to go. Now, I would suggest we skip over the next two in the programme, because we did discuss them at length last time, which was Taylor Richards.
Yeah.
Toby Adeyemo Mark II.
Yeah.
Touch briefly on Kellen Gordon and keep the horse till the end, shall we?
I think so. I mean, Kellen, there's rumours that we're going to be signing another person to form the band. And Kellen Gordon's name. There are a couple of people's names that are being spoken about: Ronan Darcy, Kellen Gordon, Corey Adai. I think Nick Cerullo was even being mentioned. Not county fans of Kellen Gordon. I don't think they really particularly loved him. I think injuries.
He's had some injury problems.
Yeah, he's been pretty poor for injuries, which is a shame. I don't ever remember looking back at his time at Crawley for standout games. I just remember him just being quite consistent.
I felt slightly underwhelmed, if I'm honest. I didn't think he played a massive part in the promotion season, from memory, but I wasn't there every week in, week out. I don't know. We'll see. It definitely, the signings that we've made. Oh, actually, I've missed one as well, because there's Lewis Richards as well, isn't there? The fullbacks coming in feels like a change in system.
I was going to say Kellen almost has. Again, he's very much up and down. I think he's quite dependable. I don't remember. I think he's, and perhaps in the situation you need a bit of dependability. You need someone who he's going to get the ball, and he's going to want to make a running behind and get across. And he's very much your typical wing back in that sense. And I think, and it gives us options. If you start the game, for example, with Pereira out on the right, and after 60 minutes it's 0-0, and you think, right, we need to change it up. You get someone who's a completely different player who wants to just go down the outside. And
he's a bit more physical, isn't he, as well?
He's probably a bit more. He's probably more defensively solid than Pereira. You'd have to think. We know he is. Pereira, Pereira is someone who I like a lot, but I think he's not a defender. So in those situations, you probably want Callum instead of him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I think
pleased you mentioned that because I
it's
was like, again, another case of he signed. I'm like, where's he going to play? I mean, I know he's going to play right
yeah.
back, but what's then going to happen with the likes of Forster, Piera?
What's
Yeah.
what's the thing? Yeah, we
What
got. I
them going
mean,
to
I
go?
think Pereira. I think we saw perhaps a glimpse of what we might do with what the aim might be with Pereira. He certainly. I was surprised to see him and Forster lining up on the same side of the pitch, and I think the aim was possibly to have Pereira playing alongside Lolos and playing off Horsey. Didn't quite come off, but I don't actually mind it because I think the players in those positions they do tend to get in areas of the pitch where they can get crosses in, get shots off, and so I think the thinking is that if you've got Pereira and Lolos supporting Horsey, you've got two players who can run in behind. They're quite quick. They're quite good at carrying the ball. They're going to get shots and crosses off. I don't mind the theory behind it. I don't mind. I can see why Scott wanted to try it. Didn't I mean it's it's the first time we've gone with that particular 11, so I wouldn't write it off. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see it again at times this season.
But then
'cause I think
you could argue we've done that at the weekend, and then come Monday morning, there's talk of Ronan Darcy, and you would assume he would go straight into that role.
yeah, I mean again it's another one where you think. I mean, as much as I'm pleased to see Ronan back, I think he's a good player at this level, and obviously a good guy as well. Someone who has that connection with the fans, and he will chip in with goals and assists. If his previous stint with us is anything to go by, he is very much someone who thrives in the final third. You feel like just thrives on being able to drive into space and just linking up with players and getting shots and
My
passes
only
off.
concern, and I did say this to my son actually at the weekend, with Orsi, with Lolos, and to a certain degree Darcy, if he does come back in, they were exceptional in a team where we controlled games. And it doesn't necessarily feel, to control a football match, you have to be high on confidence. You have to, and if something doesn't come off, it's fine. At the moment, we're not controlling games for 70, 80 minutes.
There is that.
We touched on the game management before. But, look, I think, like I said previously, I spoke to Scott at the start of the season. I know he felt Pereira was a really good footballer, as was kind of Cashman. I guess to a certain degree, he's almost a sort of a bit of a luxury player, Pereira. You need to be able to give him some creative freedom, and we've just never really been in a position to be able to do that this season.
The few times where we've been on top, the few times where you have had control of games and we've really been the better team in games, which I think it's been probably more often than results reflect, but that's when he's really stood out. He's been able to get on the ball, take a man on, and create chances and get shots off. And he I don't know if it's still the case, but at one point he was leading the whole league for chances created. There's clearly,
there's a player in there.
There's absolutely a player there. And I think he's a player that if you can get his qualities in the final third, you want him on the pitch. And
he's someone I really want to get a goal and see if that kind of really propels him on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Lewis Richard. I don't know a great deal about Lewis Richard.
I mean, Bradford fans were saying he's a good player. Just again, like most probably injuries. If it wasn't for injuries, I think some Bradford fans are even saying it's like championship quality. So he's obviously got something about him, and
it's a really interesting. Where's he going to fit in?
Yeah,
if and when he's fit. So,
I know.
And then that leaves Mr. 99.
I mean, that's probably the biggest question. I know, Louie, you put something on Twitter or X, didn't you, about the number 99 and that football was and all of that stuff.
Yeah, currently being printed on my home shirt as we speak.
Wow.
My shirt is at the club shop.
Wow.
That's a bold move.
Highest ever.
I'd be surprised if he was nice. Yeah.
A highest ever number on the back of the shirt.
Well, you can't change it now. Till the end of the
I'd be surprised if next season he was 99. Put it that way.
He won't be.
No.
It was an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't mind it too much. He obviously couldn't have the number 9 shirt if Shamanga's still here, and probably the next best thing, because 19's obviously Pereira, and then it's something a bit different. I think it's a big statement, because if he goes 5 or 6, it's a bit like, it's going to stand out. If he was number 15 or number 30 even, no one's going to really notice. But the fact that he's number 99, people...
Yeah, he's put a bit of a target on his back, hasn't he?
Quite literally, yeah.
I mean, what I would say is, I think... I heard rumours in the summer that he was available. I think, first and foremost, personally, I'm delighted to have him back. I think he's a great guy. He's a great player. He gives the fans something to really... And even just that, picking 99, I think, tells you something about his kind of character, right? He's not hiding behind a number 15, right? He's gone, right, okay, let's... I'm the guy that's here to deliver the goals, and this is my shirt number. The fact that he's, so welcome back after playing for arguably two of our biggest rivals since he left us, and everyone just goes, hey, come back, like, it's fine. And we're all really pleased to see him, and we're really happy to see him. And I definitely thought he brought some movement and some play that we haven't really seen this season. Obviously, the players behind him need to understand him a bit more to be able to kind of feed him. It was brilliant to see him get the armband when Jay went off.
That was interesting, yeah.
Because I think he is that leader, right? And look, he seems happy to be here, and I always think if you're happy at work, that's one big tick, right? And then hopefully the rest will kind of fall into place. So for me, delighted to have him back. Really pleased to see him back.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm quite interested.
It's interesting because he hasn't really set the world on fire at any other club. I mean, I know what he was at MK with Scott, but only for like a few weeks, not much at all. Yeah. So he hasn't really been able to probably play a style of football. I know that was one thing that AFC Wimbledon fans commented, the fact he has the style of football they've been playing, it doesn't really suit Horsey. So hopefully he is able to find his goal scoring form again. I mean, he scored 25 goals in 50 games for Crawley. So 1 in 2.
You just get those players where a particular club fits them, and that's kind of where they excel.
Yeah.
For those of us old enough to remember Carl Fletcher at Harchester United on Dream Team, he didn't excel anywhere else. He only excelled at Harchester United. But there are players. We've seen it over the years. They get a big money move. It doesn't quite work. Maybe the pressure's a bit different. Like you say, I don't think he started well at MK Dons last year, and then I guess
probably that was when Scott was around.
Right, and then such is football. Someone new comes in and goes, "Oh, well, you're the last bloke's guy.
Yeah,
right, you're not going to play."
From memory, he started off quite well at Burton as well, and then they obviously brought Gary Bowyer in with a very different style of football. And I think he didn't similar to what's happened at MK and at AFC Wimbledon, where style of football just didn't really suit him. It's kind of what I was saying earlier. He's very much someone you can get the ball into him, and he will link up, and he'll run the channels. He'll give defenders a hard time, because even in games where he wasn't scoring for us a couple of years ago, he was still involved, and he was still leading the line really well. So he can lead the line, but he's not a target man.
Every week, wasn't he?
Oh yeah,
right? And
I think he started 45 games. There's only one game where he didn't start.
Yeah,
and that tells you all you need to know, because you, in that team, in that season, you weren't going to keep your place if you didn't deliver.
Yeah,
because there was
a lot of rotation as well.
There was,
I think, but he's very much someone who get the ball to him sort of within the goalposts almost. Like he's just a classic penalty box striker. Get the ball to him, and he'll be in the right place. And it's something that we've really missed this season. If we're going with wide players who are more inclined to take the man on and get a cross in rather than try and cut inside and shoot or play through ball. I mean, I think he gives us someone who can lead the line and who knows where the goal is. And ultimately, it's something we desperately needed, because we didn't really have that.
And look, he's a cult hero, right? Like he'll be forever on the wall somewhere for scoring at Wembley, right? And a hat trick in the second leg and all these things. So delighted to have him back.
Yeah, I just hope it works. Like with all these players, they don't kind of ruin what potentially was something so special. And that's the thing with Scott as well. Like this is probably Scott's last stab at it, really. If it doesn't work,
This feels like a final
if
roll of the dice for Scott in terms of.
if it doesn't work come the end of the season, then Scott will be gone because
Yeah. I mean, what do we consider? Obviously, we never wanted to be in this position. It's not where anyone expects us to be at the start of the season. It's not where the club would have been aiming to be. But what would we consider success from sort of now until the end of it? Is it just staying up? Are we in a position where if we start at 1 point, that would be like in very relative terms, would it be successful?
I mean, the way it is at the moment. I mean, I'm literally looking in the back of the programme. Obviously, this is before Saturday, right? You're talking. We're 21st, and Newport are bottom of the league, 2 points below us, right? It's not. It's not a cut and dried situation right now. But on the flip side, the playoff places are only 21 points away, right? So
do a Doncaster.
The league is definitely kind of congested. A lot would talk about Notts County in a second, but there was a lot made of the game at the weekend because of the feel good factor and all of that. And look, ultimately they're on the cusp of the playoffs, and I don't think they completely outplayed us, right? So that's
very few teams have this season. I feel like I said it last time we spoke. Yeah, I think you could probably. There's 5 games this season where I think we could say we've been outplayed. I'm repeating myself from last time, but 2 of them were Bromley, who are top of the league. One of them was at Grimsby, who started the season on fire, and you wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the playoffs. So but if you look at the other games we played against the top teams, Salford, we should have got something there. Walsall, we were really good against Walsall at home. Swindon, we were desperately unlucky to lose that one. Cambridge, we weren't great, but I don't think they outplayed us. Oldham weren't. I mean, they're maybe not in the playoff picture, but they didn't outplay us by any means. We probably got a deserved point. So there's a lot of teams. MK Dons at the start of the season, we gave them. We went toe to toe with a team that's the League Two of the Manchester City of League Two at this point. The amount of money they're spending, the players they're bringing in.
To go back to your point, for me, right now, let's just stay up, right? Realistically, if we're not going to be able to make the playoffs, which I highly doubt, I think we probably needed to get 3 points on Saturday to have a realistic shot at that, and it would still be an outside chance.
Yeah,
I think let's just stay up, right? Because realistically, if we finish 21st or we finish 16th, it makes near as no bones a difference. Let's just stay up, go up again next year, hopefully with a core of people like Orsi and some of those guys sticking around, and maybe still looking to strengthen some of those areas where we need strengthen.
That's the key. I think first is staying up, but as soon as we stay up, and then almost just having an extended kind of pre-season and kind of get ready and build for next season. Where hopefully this can be a repeat from 3 seasons ago now, where we were fighting relegation one season, next season we get promoted.
Yeah, I think. Just looking at the table now, we are somehow 11 points off of Cheltenham, who are in 18th. They're on 30 points. I don't think they're a particularly impressive side. I think we're 3 points off of Shrewsbury, who I think are pretty terrible. 5 points off of Barrow in 19th, who aren't great. We know how bad Bristol Rovers have been through the majority of the season.
Then, see that again. Barrow,
I think there's a lot.
We play Barrow on Saturday, right? And if we lose to Barrow, the gap's then 8 points. So then you could argue 19th would be a stretch getting to that position.
Yeah.
So then you're slowly starting to run out of places in the league. And I don't really want to live in a world where we just hope that Harrogate and Newport continue to be as bad as they have been. I'd rather have it in our own hands than, we saw it last year where, we came within about 10 seconds of staying up, right? And it was a horrible feeling. No one wants to go into the final day of the season with that hanging over us again.
No, I think I would probably consider, maybe 18th or 19th as pretty successful from here on out.
I'd agree.
I think
if we catch Barrow, I think that'd be decent. And then then once you're there, you can start worrying about trying to sort of reel Cheltenham in. Get there a little bit, but
I just don't think we'd be going into the last gate. We need to stay in control of this and not have to rely on other teams, because that's when it gets touchy.
That's my concern.
But I mean, and
that was what we didn't do last season. Unfortunately, we sort of got ourselves in a pickle, didn't we?
Yeah.
Last game of the season at home to Salford. I don't fancy that as a last home game of the season. Desperate to stay up.
No. I don't think there's many teams I fancy in that situation, but that's just me being, quite a nervous, pessimistic pre-match kind of
that's okay.
feeling. I think just try and get away from relegation, because what you don't want to be doing is going to next season and then looking back in Crawley Town were relegation strugglers and they only just stayed up. If we can be a team that comfortably stayed up in the end, put in a good run where we look more like a playoff team the second half of the season, because that's how we ended last season. That's why partly this season is so frustrating, is because we were on.
If we runs, didn't we?
Yeah, over the 12 games. Was it 12 games that Scott came back into? I think it was around 1.8 or 1.9 points per game, and that's enough to take you into the playoffs in a 46 game season. So we were actually a really good side on Scott at the end of last season. And if we can do the same this season and keep the nucleus of that squad together, then if we did that again this season, we probably would be looking at catching Cheltenham. If we can put together in the last 19 games, if we can maybe get 30 points, I think that would be enough to see us stay up comfortably.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw one prediction earlier saying we're currently on 19 points, saying we'd get 34 points at the end of the season and be 22nd.
I'd be quite disappointed if that's. I don't think 34 points would be quite enough to stay up. But then Harrogate and Newport are historically bad as well.
I know, but my magic number at the moment is 42. Let's just get to 42 and then get beyond that.
How many did we finish on last season? Was it 50? I feel like it was quite a high bar for relegation last season.
I mean, you want stats, don't you? Let's have a look.
But I think we've definitely got it in us. We've got it in us to win. We've got it in us to win games, on a game by game basis. But when you look at over the course of say a 10 game stretch, how many points are we going to realistically get? For example, 15 points. Again, over 19 games, you're looking at
last year.
46. Yeah. Okay, so not quite as high as I thought.
But what doesn't help, and kind of moving on to speaking about the Notts County game. If we are to survive, we need to make sure we don't be getting red cards for kind of non-footballing matters, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, it seems, just watching it back, and obviously I've only seen it back on the highlights where you don't get a great view from the other side of the pitch, but the Lolos red card felt incredibly soft. If it helps, it happened in front of me and I didn't see it. I didn't think anything that bad had happened. Excuse me. And everyone around me was saying, "What was that for?" Yeah, it's the same in the terrace, and there was no real reaction on the pitch. There was a lot of the reaction in the terrace kind of was like, because normally if something like that happens, you react to what's happening on the pitch because a lot of people wouldn't have seen it, but the players didn't really. Notts County players didn't really react that much. They were kind of, a few of them were complaining. But it felt just like a sort of a get off me sort of shove, or is it violent contact? I mean, the threshold for violent conduct always seems
fairly poor on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean the threshold for violent conduct always seems a bit strange. Where we've seen incidents in the Premier League last season where a player's been chokeslammed into the ground and nothing's happened. I think that was Arsenal versus Wolves. We've seen incidents where, and then in previous seasons we've seen incidents where players just kind of squared up to someone and not really, struck them or anything, and been sent off.
I felt it was coming.
So,
there was a few, there was a few instances where our players kind of got talking to, and then similar things happen on the other side. I mean, look, I don't think it was a great refereeing performance from the refereeing team.
I think for me,
the assistant on my side of the pitch definitely let a few things go that shouldn't have been let go. That's just my view from where I was. Like you, the video of the violent conduct was poor, to say the least. And I mean, look, the old saying is just don't give the referee a decision to make, right?
Yeah. On the flip side, I know if he doesn't sort of lash out, so to speak, the referee, nothing. Obviously nothing happens. I just wonder whether the referee could have managed it with a yellow card, because I think if he'd been given a yellow card, would anyone have looked back on that and gone, "Oh, that's outrageous"? Would it have been doing the rounds on Twitter later with a caption? Should Crawley's Clyde Lollos have seen red for this?
No, I don't. I don't.
No,
think
but
so.
it's not the worst thing. It's certainly not the worst thing that we've seen on the football pitch this week. If in the Welsh League, if you compare it to that, which was possibly the most violent conduct you'll ever see, it feels especially soft.
What
I guess the frustrating thing
frustrated me is he's been brought in to be part of the rebuild. He knows the situation the club's in, and he has been brought in to be one of the kind of saviours. To do that in your first game back, where now, the club could appeal it, but it's probably not going to get overturned, so then his ban would get extended. So now we're missing him for three games that he could really have an important impact in. I don't know. You never know what's been said between two people. I'm sure he reacted in the way he reacted because there was a reason, but it's not a great look, is it?
No, not at all.
No.
And it changed it changed the game weirdly. I felt for the better when he went off. I don't mean that as a slur.
We reacted quite well. No, we reacted quite well, and we seem to actually kind of. It seems to not. I don't want to say wake us up, but it injected a bit of urgency and a bit of the tempo of our play definitely went up, and I think we can. Yeah, in the circumstances, we can. It's another game where we can consider ourselves unlucky not to have got anything, but you have to make your own luck.
Yeah.
At times, we haven't done that enough this season. We haven't. Whether that's poor finishing or mistakes. But you can't. I don't think there were the two goals we conceded on Saturday. I think Lollos probably shows you don't show Jody Jones onto his left foot that easily. I think Lollos perhaps maybe he was just a bit rusty, or I don't think you. I think you have to do a little bit better. You don't show someone with that good left foot.
I was right behind Jody Jones when he hit that.
You what a strike though!
It's a great strike, and again,
it's a great
little
strike.
Bit of bad luck.
There was a little bit of bad luck. I would argue from my seat where I was sitting that the keeper maybe could have done a little bit better. Like you say, show him outside, just fix that problem. Is that just that Lollos hasn't played a huge amount of football this season?
I wonder. Yeah,
bit of sort of ring rustiness.
On the replays, it looked like it might have taken the tiniest of deflections as it goes through. It looks like one of those where it seems to slightly change trajectory, ever so slightly. But I could just be imagining things when
I'm not like you. I've not watched the highlights at all. I saw it.
It would explain why Davies wasn't able to keep it out.
I was right behind it, and it dipped. You know how Ronaldo used to hit a free kick off the valve, and it used to dip in. It did. The trajectory was odd. but
It feel
it wasn't unsavable, and it didn't feel that pacey from behind it.
I just wondered because, like you say, it looks like it's dipping, and then it looks like it suddenly lifts into the top corner. It looks like it
I'm
takes
gonna
a.
have a look back there.
But I can't see
I'll
where
have
the
it back.
deflection happens, but it goes through sort of a group of players, and it almost looks like anyway.
I mean, it was a good strike, and I come back to something we spoke about at length last time on the podcast, which was, we don't necessarily take those shots from outside the box, and our goal, lucky, yes, but it was, how many times this season have we had a free kick in a sort of dangerous-ish position, and we just play a sideways ball, or we overhit the cross. It was really nice to see McCurdy just slap one in, right? And and ultimately, it's only got to come off someone's toe.
Yeah.
And exactly what happened. And let's be real, when you're down there, as we have been invariably now for the past 12, 18 months, we'll take whatever we can get to hopefully try and turn the tide, because sometimes it's a bit of luck like that, a ball flying in off someone's backside that can turn a whole season.
Yeah.
And it hopefully gives McCurdy a bit of confidence going forward anyway, because I think he's a bit of a confidence player, and he steps up. All right, it was only a consolation in the end, but he stepped up and had a go, sometimes you just need, like you say, a little bit of luck. Hopefully, it gives him some confidence going into, because we're going to need him in the next few games.
That's kind of my next question. Who would you replace Lolos with? Would you go for McCurdy and play him?
I think McCurdy probably does play
together.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm kind of interested to see how Allsey and McCurdy would play together, because I feel like that could be quite an interesting combination where McCurdy likes to run out wide, and he likes to pick the ball up. He likes to link up with players, and he likes to do a lot. Whatever you think of McCurdy, some people rate him, some people don't. I think he's quite a gifted player who is inconsistent and isn't great in front of goal. But one thing he has got, he's got an eye for a cross. He's created a couple of goals this season where he's floated in a lovely cross from the left, and I think if he's got someone to play alongside up front, who's occupying the defenders, and as we know, also can someone else who's also running the channels. Someone who he can run in behind, who isn't Ryan Loft. Someone who's doing the running for him, so that he can pick the ball up and run at the defender. I can see them working quite well together. I think they could. Not saying it will happen. I think they could complement each other quite well as a front two if we were to play them in that way. And certainly he will create chances for Orsi.
I think
we know he will. He'll do that.
He's better in that false nine, McCurdy, and I think we saw touches of it on Saturday where there seemed to almost be a kind of telepathy between the two of them, and one stayed back to kind of try and link it. I like McCurdy. I mean, he literally looks like he's just walked in from the street and isn't a professional footballer, but I kind of love that about him. I mean, he's got napkins for shin pads. He's
don't think he even has that.
But he's, look, he's ingrained himself to the fans. Of the few this season that have, he's not been afraid to say at times, look, it's not good enough, we need to be better, and he's been the one that's kind of stuck his head up. Listen, he's top scorer, I think, according to the stats I'm looking at.
Is he on 6 goals now?
6 goals, yeah. So he's halfway to the 10 that I wanted. He's not played a huge amount of football in the last 2 seasons, so to come in and just play as regularly as he did, and he was not a great wing back at the start of the season, but I'll always admire a player that goes, do you know what, I'll do that job for you. You need someone to do it, and I will do it. And realistically, we are a League 2 club, so we haven't got a wealth of talent in every position. So we saw it last season. I didn't rate him as a striker, but Will Swan was a great left wing back. And he did the job and he filled in, and I commend people for that, because I think it's not easy to go out and do your job and put yourself sort of out there. I mean, look, all this is dependent. I mean, you know, if Darcy comes in before Saturday, then you would probably put Darcy in that position, and then the question becomes: do you have Pereira or do you have McCurdy alongside that person? I don't know, but I think Darcy's played quite a bit of football at Chesterfield, so you know, I would assume
it's a strange one. He scored a brilliant goal. I think it was earlier in the season where he dummies 2 or 3 defenders and then slips it past the keeper, and it did one of those where it does the rounds on Twitter as well, on a Saturday evening, where everyone's like, "Oh my god, look at great bit of skill from Darcy."
I can only assume it's probably going to be a permanent deal. I can't see that Wigan would have recalled him.
It's a loan by all accounts until the end of the season, which is where it's maybe he's fallen out of favour at Chesterfield.
Maybe, but I assume he's coming in fit. So
he's played 24 games for Chesterfield. I believe the reason why he's coming back is because they've got a few other players returning from injury that they will be playing over Darcy, and so that's why he wasn't going to be getting enough game time for what he deserves. But even Chesterfield manager was like, he's too good to be sitting on the bench, and so that's why he's gone back to Wigan.
It's quite unusual. It's quite admirable from a Chesterfield point of view, because they could have just said, "No, we'll keep you just in case we need you for a few games later on in the season." But so you have to fair play them.
So we might see him on against Barrow. A long journey. I don't know whether it'd be our longest journey of the season. Horrible place to get to. Because just even though you head up north,
he's already halfway there, isn't he? So.
Yeah, that's true. He might meet us in like Liverpool or somewhere like that. I
wouldn't blame him if he just stayed there for a few days and then jumps on the coach as it's on the I don't know, the M40 that goes around Manchester. I don't know, but anyway. It's an interesting one where when everyone's fit, which is obviously not going to happen because it's Crawley Town and we must have 5 players injured at all times. That's the rules. But if everyone was fit and available, I mean, we haven't spoken about not Theo Vassell. We haven't spoken about is it Taylor
Richards?
I forgot. Taylor Richards, sorry, yeah.
So he could go in the 10 as well.
Yeah,
and he's someone who he looks lively, but I've not been overwhelmed by him. But he's clearly got a bit of ability the way he takes players on, and he's quite positive. He likes to get on the ball and drive forward, which is always exciting, even if it doesn't come off. You'd imagine, like we said earlier, you imagine Kaheem Dixon will go back to Charlton. You imagine a few of the players that we had on loan from the start of the season will end up going back because we must have nearly 10 players on loan now.
So if you look at the 3 that have gone out so far, you've got Joy McCain has gone to Yeovil, hasn't he, which is a step down into the National League. And then Jude Robertson and Cote have gone to Whitehawk on loan to get some football. I mean, the bits I've seen of Cote this season, he looked a good player. Jude, I've not seen enough to. I think the most I saw him play was at Three Bridges in pre-season. Hard to get a read on that. And then, like you say, I think if you look through the squad now, Reece Brown, probably. Reece Brown and Holohan are a long way down the picking order now.
Yeah.
I think we touched on at the start. Maybe Rolls goes again, and then I mean, look, I don't want to keep hating on the same, but I don't think anyone will be sad to see Brian Loft go. I don't think he's endeared himself to the fans too much with his performances.
I mean, I should imagine Schwanmi, he'll probably go.
Yeah, which is a shame, I think, because I think he definitely has something to offer at this level based on what he did
his goal
at
at
a high level
last year was brilliant.
Yeah. His finishing abilities, he scored 3. I mean, there's a goal he scored against Burton at home last season, the equaliser, where he just volleyed. I think it was a weak foot volley into the top corner. He clearly had ability in front of goal, and I quite liked. He wasn't the most mobile, but I liked that he he held the ball up well. He got into good positions. He's a great finisher. Scored all different types of goals. So I think he definitely had something to offer
For
this
me,
season.
the big question mark at the moment is sort of Adi Amo. You know, is there still a place for him? I suppose arguably we're still a centre back heavy, even though McCain has gone out. So, you know, do you keep Radcliffe? Do you keep Conroy? I mean, look, I've had conversations, and I know from previous conversations around the club that the plan was very much that Barker would be the Conroy replacement in League One last year.
Really?
Yeah, and I could see that, and I think when Conroy was out injured at the start of last season, he did sort of play more centrally, and he's just a little bit more assured, I think. Then Conroy came back in at a time when we were struggling, played really well against Birmingham, and kept his place. I mean, you know, we spoke about it last time on the pod. You know, should he still be in there? I mean, he's not in the team this weekend for whatever reason. But yeah, look, the squad's slightly inflated at the moment.
Just slightly. I think it's 30. Darcy will make it 32 outfield players that we have.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't think that includes. I think that might include the two young lads who've gone on loan to Whitehawk.
Okay.
Possibly might include them, but it's still 30 outfield players.
Yeah,
Which is
So let me just grab this. So, you know, Papadopoulos is out on loan, isn't he? Like you say, Tola. I'd be disappointed to see Tola go, but you know,
I think it's a shame he's not been given a go at this level because I really think.
Then you've got. Would anyone be surprised to see Kabi Shaminga leave? Not really. Reece Brown, Jack Rolls, Adi Amo, Dixon, Watson. I mean, you know, again, I like Watson, but the Watson we had in League One last year that came in looked a better player than the one we've had in League Two this season, sadly. But that could be down to the system that we're playing and the way we were playing, and those sort of things. So I think there's still some outs. What I would say is we're in a very different position to where we were sort of 18 months ago. You know, I don't think there's any clubs circling with a big offer for a player right now. You know, I think at the start of the season we started fairly well. I think, you know, I heard rumours of Josh Flint, and obviously the Charlie Barker to Rotherham had some legs for a while. I don't think there's a queue of people bashing down the door of Erdem to get hold of our players at the moment.
No.
Yeah, I agree. But no doubt after our next episode, we'll be discussing some outgoings, I should imagine, and maybe one or two incomings. I know people might want a goalkeeper to be brought in, and potentially Darcy, and who knows, you might even sign Jeb Brown.
It was when people obviously thought Liam Kelly was coming back, and there was never any chance of that. He's been a mainstay for MK this season. Although from what I've heard, that was very close to happening in the summer, but then Paul Warren decided he wanted to keep him and pulled the plug on it, and possibly
I heard rumours that he was in the building.
I saw the same. I saw a lot of. There was very, very heavy suggestions that it was. I mean, I think that's probably how close it got, to be honest.
Well, I was.
If there was a Kelly that was more likely to come back,
shop buying something. I can't remember what I was buying, and Jay Williams came out prior to his signing, and said hello, and I was like, oh, okay. So like, I think. Yeah, I think there was definitely. I think Scott said it right. A lot of these guys were kind of targets in the summer. I think Orsi definitely was, because I think at this level, if you can get any kind of goal return out of him, you know, I know a lot's been made of the fact that he's not scored the same amount of goals elsewhere that he did at Crawley, but that promotion team was built to feed him, and I think a lot of people forget he didn't really start the season all that well, and I think he did towards the end of that playoff run. He did credit Scott with kind of working with him and sort of really developing him and working on finishing with Horsey to kind of get him to the next level. I mean, look, I nail my colours to the mast. I would be more than happy to have a new goalkeeper.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I think
just don't feel secure.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could be here all night actually talking about who we would be bringing in, who would be leaving. So I think we'll save that for the next episode if we do one before the end of the transfer window. So, Louie, Brad, thanks very much for joining me on this episode, and come on, you Reds.